Hello everyone, today we're going to continue with procedural content generation. This time, instead of spawning single meshes, we're going to use level instances, such as the one I have here. I'm going to show you this quick example, and then we'll create one from scratch ourselves. So, as you can see, I have this level instance here, which has several meshes, trees, rocks, grass, ferns, etc. And each mesh has a tag. So, if I actually go into edit and type tag, you'll see that this one is called tree, rock, fern, grass, etc. And this data is what we use in our PCG graph to apply different filters so that when we actually spawn the level instance in our PCG graph, we get some randomness. So as you can see here, we don't even have a tree. Here, the rocks have some offsets. Here, we're missing one of the rocks. Here, we only have one rock, etc. If we take a look at the PCG graph, this is what it looks like. This tutorial is easier to follow if you've seen the previous one, where we went over the different kinds of filters that we used in the PCG graph. But basically here we're doing more or less the same. We're getting the landscape data, surface sample, then I'm filtering by the normal to density. Here is where we get the information from the level instance. So once we have our level instance here, which I'll show you how to create, we'll create a PCG data asset from that level instance. And then we simply attribute filter by the tags that we said before. So tree, rock, fern. And each of these filters will have different transforms and density filters to each of them to get the randomness that you're looking for. Another thing is that here, even though we use a static mesh spawner, let me just duplicate this one, for example, so we can see the difference. Here we have a PCG mesh selector weighted, whereas here we have a PCG mesh selector by attribute, and in attribute name we simply type mesh. And that's the difference between spawning a simple mesh, where you actually set the mesh that you want to spawn. And here we're getting the meshes that are in our level instance. So why would you want to use level instances of simply spawning meshes? Let me just put this back to how we finished the last tutorial. And this. Okay. Here it is how we left it off. And as you can see, it looks pretty good. But we could do something better. We're going to take the ferns, for example, first. And right now we're simply spawning single meshes of ferns. But if we want to be a bit more accurate to nature, ferns primarily reproduce through spores or underground stems, which means that they reproduce in clumps, such as this that we have here. And we might want to be a bit more specific, and this is where level instances might come in handy. So let me just unplug all of these. And we're only gonna leave the ferns for now. Let me see if that did it. Okay. So instead of spawning them like this, single meshes, we're gonna create a level instance. Okay, the first thing we want to do is get the meshes that we want to use and place them as we would want to spawn them in the world. As you can see, I have a big one, then I have two medium ones, and then you have two small ones. This is the same mesh, just rotated different ways and with different scales. I'm gonna divide this level instance into big. So if I go to my tag, once you have your meshes placed, it's time to tag them. So in here, we're gonna name this one big. These two are gonna be mid, and these two are gonna be named small. Once we've done this, we want to select all the meshes that we want in our level instance. We want to right click, go to level, create level instance. Here is where we'll select the pivot type. I suggest leaving this as default. We can always edit it later. Say OK. And I'm gonna go to my folder where I have all my PCG level instances, and I'm gonna type fern. Save. And now we have our level instance created. If we would want to edit the level instance because we don't like the way it looks, we can simply select it, then go to edit, and then we'll be able to move the meshes however you want. We could even, if we go to outliner and select pivot, we could even edit the pivot to be a bit more accurate to how we want it. Then we simply save all, exit. Now something to consider is, let me just do this first. Let's go to fern, to our level, right click, go to asset actions, and then we want to create PCG assets from level. We're going to save it here. And here we have it created. This is the data that our PCG environment will use. Something to consider is that every time you edit the level instance, you're going to have to create this again. So you would simply do this again, asset actions, create PCG level from instance, select the one you want to substitute, save, yes. Now that we have our PCG data asset, we can go to our PCG graph. We will need a copy points node. This one here. And we're simply substituting the fern. This is the line of code that we did for the ferns. And we do want to keep all these filters that we did previously, since we don't want them to be close to the tree points, rock points, sapling points, etc. So we're gonna actually get it, we're gonna break here, and after we do the normal to density filter, we're gonna get this and plug it into the target, if I remember correctly. Yes. Now we open our content folder and we drag our fern PCG data, and we're gonna get the points and plug it into the source. Now we're gonna use a static mesh spawner. We are going to select selected by attribute. Here we're gonna type mesh and simply plug this in and see what it looks like. And as you can see, now we're simply spawning our level instance. They are all the same orientation since we haven't applied any transforms, which is what we're going to do right now. So after this is where we're going to use our attributes filter. So to double check the tags that you placed, we can select the fern PCG data asset, click A on your keyboard, come down here. If you don't see it, it's probably like this, selected, go down and select this one. And here we should see on the most right part, we should see mid, small and big. So from here, attribute filter, we want it to equal exactly the target attribute. So we're going to start with big. Then we're going to duplicate this attribute filter and we're going to type mid, if I remember correctly. Was it mid? Yes. And it's not really necessary to do the small one since that's the only other attribute left, but we're going to do it anyways, just in case. Here it is. I'm going to unplug this. So for the big one, I think the only thing we want to do is transform it. So we're going to do a transform 360. We don't want this. Actually, let's put it back to 0. We want 360. Absolute rotation we don't want enabled. We want this to be a bit smaller. And let's see what happens if we simply spawn it. Why are we spawning the other ones? Let's use constant threshold. Ah, okay. We need to select use constant threshold and then type boolean. Okay. Did we select? Yes, we did. Okay. So make sure to use constant threshold, then select boolean and then bold value true. Let's do the same here. And here. And now we should only see the big ones. Yes. The reason for the change in size is the transform that we did here. If we were to put this back, all of them should be the same size. Okay, let's put this back to, let's say 1.5. Now for the medium ones, we do want a bit of a filter since we don't want to spawn them always the same. So we are going to, actually I want to put a transform before all this, since I want the whole level instance to rotate also. So we get this here, this we're not going to touch, and we're only going to do a 360. Save all. Okay. Here we're gonna use an attribute filter. Oh, sorry, not this. Attribute noise is the one we're looking for. Here it is. Then a density filter, and we want 50% of them to be spawned only. We're going to use another transform point. Actually, let's put this back. 360. Okay, let's see how this looks. I think we're going to need to increase the size of our surface sampler. Let's put it 150. 150. Okay. So right now we're getting mediums always, even though we did an attribute filter. Input. Set mode. Let's see if we're doing the same here. We need to type density. Yeah, I think that's the only difference. Make sure you type density with this symbol. And now, yeah, now we see the difference. And let's reduce. Or not. Why is this not working? Seed mode. Invert filter. Okay, that does the trick. Okay. Let's put it to a higher value. So we put 0.5. We should get 50% of them showing. It's either yes or no. I don't understand why it's happening. 0.51 invert filter. Density source set. Noise min. Noise max. Which is what we have here. Noise min, noise max. So it was the seed. Now some of them do have the... Okay. Should in theory work with any seed. Yeah. Anyways, now it's working. Let's just go over it because I made a bit of a mess. So we applied our attribute filters. Big, mid, then attribute noise. Make sure here it says whatever this symbol is, density. We apply a density filter where we've ticked invert filter. We want around 50% of them to spawn and the upper bound is going to be 1. Then we go into the transform points for whatever you want to do. And you should get something like this where some of them are spawning, in some cases both, some only one, and this one, for example, doesn't have any. Now we're going to do the same thing with this one. We're going to simply duplicate this. And we plug it in. We have some randomness. As you can see here, we have a small, a medium, and a large. Here we have 2 larges, but no small. And if we wanted these small ones to be a little bit more often, we can simply increase the number. I apologize for the confusion. I should have gone over it thoroughly before I made the recording, but it is what it is. So yeah, this is how you can use a level instance to spawn the meshes that you select, but with different filters using tags. And now we plug back everything. We should get something a bit nicer. You might have to retouch the bounds or the difference between grass and the fern points, since now they occupy more space. We could even maybe increase this to 200 and see if that fixes things. Let's see how this looks. That about covers the surface area of the ferns. Now we don't have any ferns because those spots are too big. Let's do 100. It doesn't look bad, but we might need to fix the distance for grass and debris points. I understand why it's not happening, because we need to move this reroute node here. Okay, much better. Now we don't have so much clipping. And now we have our ferns spawning in groups instead of simply single meshes. It's quite simple if you get the attribute noise working properly. And you could use this for clumps of grass, flowers, trees, saplings, for anything you want. It has a lot of possibilities. Maybe in the future I bring tutorials using splines to do paths and things like this. I'm gonna leave a YouTube video in the description, which is from the Unreal Engine official channel, which actually helped me a lot and has a lot of information. I think you might find it useful. And this was all for today. I hope you've learned something, and if you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.